In January 1959, a young lawyer with a bushy beard, dressed in khaki green fatigues, came down from the mountains and entered the city of Havana. His adversary, the dictator Fulgencio Batista, had fled. The young guerrilla walked out onto the balcony of the presidential palace here behind me and spoke a few simple words. The young lawyer, of course, was Fidel Castro.
This program is about Castro's Cuba. It's about Cuban independence. It's about the very high price the Cuban people have had to pay. Cuba si, Yankee no. The slogans are unchanged for 30 years. Apparently, fear and resentment for the North Americans still dominate the Cuban psyche. There was a time when the feelings were mutual.
The Cuban Revolution drove out one dictator, but it produced another, Fidel Castro. Little did the Cuban people suspect that Castro would betray their cause and deliver them into the hands of the most ruthless of all tyranny, into the iron grip of communism.
30 years later, the brash young revolutionary seems much less ferocious. An aging lion, the last holdout of a dying breed. The communist world is collapsing around him, leaving Fidel Castro and his people solitary communist crusaders. The question is, how much longer can he keep the revolution going? Will the revolution outlive the revolutionary?
Comrades.
One thing is certain, the man still knows how to work a crowd.
I shall try to speak calmly. Because calmness is one of the characteristics of our people, of our revolution. It is them who are crazy. Crazy. In the face of Yankee arrogance, we need hundreds of heroes.
Tonight, these Cuban merchant sailors are being honored as heroes for surviving and outrunning an attack by the U.S. Coast Guard to Cubanize an illegal search and seizure attempt. But this is only a small victory. The state of siege will continue. Cuba must stay united against the dreaded imperialists.
This is a shameful and cowardly act by those who committed the evil crime, the historical crime of attacking our country.
Attendance at this rally is, if not mandatory, then highly recommended. But this rally is more than just a way to maintain control. It's also a sincere demonstration of national pride and independence. For 30 years, Cuba has resisted a superpower. They believe America spends most of its time trying to bring down their revolution. Havana, once the Paris of the Caribbean. For 400 years, the crown jewel of Spain's empire in the Americas. The echoes of that age are everywhere. Havana's elegance wasn't the product of New World gold, as much as the profits from sugar plantations and slave labor. Cubans were kept in check by the steel bayonets of Spanish garrisons and the iron wills of colonial overlords. The ultimate challenge to Spanish domination finally came when José Martí, Cuba's great statesman, poet, and hero, called for a Cuba free and just, a Cuba made for and by all Cubans. After 30 years of fighting, the Cuban rebels almost had independence won from Spain. But then, the United States came to the rescue. The Spanish-American War, immortalized by Teddy Roosevelt's charge up San Juan Hill, freed Cuba from Spanish domination, only to turn the island into an American protectorate. America's 60-year domination lasted until 1959.
Now, there is no spare parts suppliers. Here, there is nothing for them. The time will come when a car will break down for any reason, and you just have to leave it there, because here, there are no spare parts.
The United States' stifling embargo against Cuba went into effect in October of 1960. Ever since, the key words for Cuban car owners have been cannibalize, refit, and make do. The Malecón. To Americans old enough to remember, this lover's walk surely evokes memories of a very different Havana. For decades, it was an American playground. Most repressive of a line of Cuban puppets, more concerned with catering to American business than fulfilling the needs of his own people.
In Havana, things are not going as well as the government would have the world believe. Student demonstrations are staged before the doors of the National Assembly.
While many Cubans profited from U.S. business, a growing number longed for a truly independent Cuba. Adding to the cauldron of dissent was the increasing division between the haves of Havana and the have-nots of the barrios and the rest of the Cuban countryside. Beyond the cities and the shore lies the vast interior of Cuba. The Sierra Maestra Mountains are 400 miles from Havana. They remain rugged, remote, inaccessible. For a rebellious Fidel Castro, these mountains were an ideal hideout from which to launch his attack against the dictator Batista. It was here he learned firsthand the depths of Cuban poverty. Castro was the product of an affluent Cuban family. He went to the island's best schools. The people of the Sierras, long ignored by the government in Havana, gave him shelter and support. Fidel gave them the promise of change. The Sierra Maestras became Cuba's Valley Forge.
First films of Cuban rebel leader Fidel Castro and his ragged force in their mountain stronghold made shortly before fighting erupted in all 6 of Cuba's provinces. This is the band, numbered at about 1,000.
Castro and Argentine revolutionary Che Guevara will train and fight alongside their guerrilla recruits for just over 2 years.
Fidel Castro calls a strategy meeting. They hear news that the revolutionary forces all over the island are rising against Batista.
The legend of Castro will radiate from the mountains and draw support throughout the island.
It is an unequal battle of idealists against tough professional forces. Says Castro, if I lose, I'll start over again. If Batista loses, he loses for good.
The Sierras have become a testament to the revolution. Here is where the gains have been most dramatic. Clean water, electricity, telephones, and above all, education and medical care. Dr. Amanda Lasser, 24 years old. The village of Buey Arriba is her first field assignment.
Look up.
Before the revolution, my family was like millions of poor families that were in this country. With the revolution, there were radical changes. For example, I started thinking about being a doctor when I was a child. And to become a doctor, the only cost was to be a good student. My parents didn't have to pay or do anything for that. I started studying, and I worked hard, and I went to the university. And now I'm a doctor. Everyone here has a cousin, an uncle, a grandfather, a father, or a mother that participated in the guerrilla fight. Today they are my patients, and they come and talk with me and tell me those things that I once learned through writers.
Who can tell me the name of one of the leaders of the insurrection in the Sierra Maestra? Let's see, you, tell me. Camilo, very good. Let's see, who can tell me another one? Fidel Castro, very good.
Good morning, excuse me. Rogelio, we came to interrupt your class a little while. We came to give you a second dose of the vaccination we gave you the other day. Remember? The one we shot in the arm with a very little syringe. Are you Armenio? Ay, ven. The revolution brought them all the things for which they fought. Their children have a school. From this area, there are 4 young people that are studying medicine, and they will be my substitutes when I leave. Good morning, how are you? May I leave the horse here? How's your belly going? And the kids? They're in school. How are you? Good morning, Anardi, how are you?
Amanda cares for 335 people, 81 families. Though she hopes to specialize in women's medicine, she will go where the state says she's needed. Amanda holds a special place in this community. She is a living symbol of the gains for which these people struggled more than 30 years ago.
The men and women that live around here, they made the revolution. So I have to do my best, because I cannot disappoint the people and have them think that their fight was in vain. We know that we have gained a lot, and we know that there are a lot of things missing, but we also know that we have things that don't exist in other places where there are material things. We have things that are important in life, to develop as a human being. Because a blue jean is not essential to live, or a sweater or a tape recorder. So what are the necessary things to be able to live? Food, education, guaranteed health, not having to think that tomorrow we will be without a job, or not having money to buy food, or that I have to sell drugs to earn money. Those are the things that are necessary for living. And we have them.
My parents, before the revolution, they were peasants, poor peasants. A lot of doctors in those years immigrated to the United States and to other countries. As a consequence of that, my sister died because she was suffering from a disease that wasn't detected on time. As a result of the way things used to be, the girl died.
Javier Mendez is the star center fielder of the Cuban national team, a Cuban legend in the making. Baseball, along with the revolution, is Cuba's national pastime. Mendez would be worth millions if he could play in the United States, or if he wanted to.
There are a lot of athletes that earn immense quantities of money, but I think it is unjust. I don't think that I could fit into that. I'm telling you this because there's so much injustice, so much vanity in the world. And I would feel very bad earning a lot of money while there's so much poverty in the world.
Look, this is a place for shooting practice. Here everybody knows how to shoot, you know. When we go to school, we have lessons in military operations.
From the start, the state provides for the basic needs of the individual. That has been the promise of Castro's revolution. In return, it demands unswerving obedience. Those who do not obey may join the hundreds of Cuba's political prisoners. The individual's involvement with the state and the state's involvement with the individual is a lifelong affair. This is a state shop, set up exclusively for newlyweds. With government vouchers, Evelyn and her fiancé, Luis, are hunting for household basics and fineries for their honeymoon. With some coaching from Mom.
Well, there should be a little more variety in things. But the household needs and the needs of the youngsters when they get married are pretty much solved.
Valentine's Day. The big day has arrived. Evelyn and Luis's wedding is truly a state affair. A wedding dress provided by the state. A state veil. State lingerie. And the ceremony itself is performed by a state official in the state-run Palace of Marriages. The ceremony is a distinctive blend of the traditional and the pragmatic.
Article 24 states, the marriage is based on the establishment of equal rights and duties for both partners, who should live together in loyalty, consideration, respect, and mutual help. Thus, having completed the reading of the Family Code of Conduct, I shall ask Luis Enrique if he still wishes to make formal his marriage to Evelyn. Yes or no? Evelyn, do you still wish to make formal your marriage to Luis? So, Luis and Evelyn, you are now married. In the name of our socialist society that we're building together, I declare you to be united in legitimate matrimony. Congratulations to both of you. I hope you will be very happy.
First of all, we're living at his house with his mother and his sister, and we're doing well, but we plan to work in a micro brigade. 5 years, 6 years, whatever, so we can live alone in an apartment.
Cuba's housing shortage has been severe and persistent. A major problem has been the lack of heavy machinery with which to build. One of the government's solutions has been organizing volunteer construction teams called micro-brigades.
Well, today we're going to begin some voluntary work here. Therefore, what we're going to do today is to take 10 comrades together with a few trainers and raise metal girders to cover the 3rd floor.
At this particular site, Cuba's world champion volleyball players have volunteered.
Take up the girders on the 3rd floor. So, we can start now?
Team members are doing their part for the country, getting a good workout, and some are building up credits towards an apartment of their own.
Well, all the Cuban teams participate in one way or another in the building of our society and in the construction that is being done all over the country. We bring the team because we think it's a way of education and as a way of being in solidarity with the construction workers, who, in reality, are the ones that make and develop the country.
This is another answer to the housing shortage. Villa Bento, one of the state-run love hotels, or posadas. They're open 24 hours, 365 days a year. Only couples are admitted. Most of the customers are married, some to each other. The peso an hour fee entitles couples to a suite with piped-in music, air conditioning, and room service. It's a sensual sanctuary where privacy is guaranteed, No questions asked, no records kept. The man in charge is Roberto Garcia.
All the customers feel very well and they talk a lot about this place, and that makes us very satisfied. As a worker, as administration, as everything, as the revolutionaries that we are.
As promised, the state provides for all essential desires. Cigars, Cuba's most celebrated export. Today at the factory, an election is taking place.
Buenos días, compañeros y compañeras.
Marlena Diaz is auditioning for the position of cigar factory reader. Today, Marlena will deliver only the state's official version of the news from the Daily Granma.
La Havana, Tuesday, 30th of January, year 32 of the Revolution. The international news. While referring to the announced beginning of transmissions of TV Marti, the North American TV station against Cuba, the Cuban ambassador declared the situation to be a new violation of our country.
For the audition that has been done by our compañeros during the last 3 days, for our compañerita Esther Cuaches.
Bien, bajen la mano.
Okay, put your hands down. For our compañerita Marlene Diaz.
For Castro's Cubans, it's a rare demonstration of democracy, of a sort, a say in who reads, if not what is read. This is the beginning of a religious ceremony. The religion is Santeria. To fully understand the mystique of Castro's power, one has to be aware of the influence of Santeria on Cuba's African soul.
Santo Tomás, 3 personas distintas, un solo Dios. Somos o no somos, somos o no somos. Piedando quinta, limbueta mi ore. Mi piedando quinta, limbueta mi ore.
This man, Enriquito, is a high priest, a babalao.
The origins of Santeria are African. Santeria arrived here in Cuba through the slave trade done by the Spaniards. The blacks who were brought to be used as slaves were the ones that introduced the religion. The Spanish knew that they were bringing their beliefs and their religion. Therefore, they had to do it in hiding. In that way, the syncretism of Catholicism and the African religion began. All the saints of the Catholic Church are white, but African saints are black. In that time, Santeria was only practiced by the blacks that came from Africa, but later by the mestizos, and later the whites. The situation has grown every day.
Oddly, Santeria flourishes in a socialist state where atheism is the official doctrine, but where Afro-Cubans are the majority. That Fidel Castro has never aggressively repressed it may be more political savvy than oversight.
When the revolution hadn't yet triumphed, among the ones who went to fight for what we have today, there were the same number of blacks as whites. So in the mountains, they all met like brothers. They fought together to achieve this triumph that our Comandante Fidel Castro, as the principal leader, has been able to achieve.
New Year's Day, 1959. The news spreads through Havana. Batista is finished. Soon the belongings of the hated oppressors are in...
The world saw these events as political, but to Santeria worshippers, the conflict took place in the supernatural realm, as well as in the streets. The dictator Batista fled moments before the new year began. Some say to avoid the Santerian curse of a troubled new year.
Where is Castro? Now that the revolution is over, why doesn't he come?
Fidel is a believer.
This religion, born in the strife of slavery, has no thou shalt nots. Santeria professes that earthly pleasures stimulate the gods. The purpose of tonight's ceremony is to entice the gods to this earthly realm with drums, with offerings and dance. The hope is to become spiritually enraptured. This young woman has opened herself to a union with a god. It is an honor that does not occur at will. Conditions must be right. This woman is giving up the spirit. The event reminds all of the authority the gods hold in the affairs of man. As Enriquito tells his children, and as Fidel Castro knows well, one should never underestimate the power of faith.
This is the Cuba of Fidel Castro. This is a Cuba that is worldly, hip, feisty, and proud. Incessantly involved in affairs around the globe, this island nation has won the respect, sometimes grudgingly, of countries 20 times its size. Castro's Cuba stands tall in the ranks of nations. From here in Havana, Cuban diplomats, doctors, engineers, construction workers, healthcare specialists, and highly trained combat troops sail to more than 40 different countries. They export war and peace according to their own conscience.
Today, an army comes home from war. At Havana's harbor, the city is turned out. Cuban sons and brothers are coming home. Thousands of miles away in Africa, the Cuban David slew an imperialist Goliath. The Cuban army, recognized as among the best combat troops in the world, has spent 13 years in the bush of Angola. They have fought in the name of international revolutionary solidarity, and with their Angolan comrades, they have triumphed.
Why Angola? What's the relationship between Cuba and Angola?
Angola is a country that was oppressed by South Africa, by the imperialism. We are a communist country, a socialist country, and they asked for our help, and we as revolutionaries went to achieve a very honorable mission.
The nation is ecstatic as its soldiers return home from war.
As a mother, as a Cuban woman, what does it mean to you to have given your support to the proletarian internationalism?
All my happiness.
Why your happiness?
Because that's what I feel. I love Fidel very much, and I know that whatever Fidel does is the best. The best, the best.
Yet there is more than the relief of a safe return and victory in the air. Today is a passionate display of national pride. These men are symbols of all that Castro's Cuba has aspired to be, a nation to be reckoned with, a major player on the world stage. Defiant, spirited, free.
Long live the commander-in-chief, damn it!
This Cuban self-image may be Fidel Castro's greatest single achievement. The exhilaration of this day is also tinged with a sobering realization. The Cuba to which these troops have returned is facing its greatest challenge. Cuba is in grave danger from political and economic isolation. In such an atmosphere, the chant "socialism or death" has an increasingly ominous ring. 180 miles southeast of Havana, on the Caribbean side of the island, a more modest demonstration of Cuban solidarity is taking place.
Jefe de cuadra, presente.
This is the citizens' militia of the town of Playa Girón. Every town, village, and city block has a citizens' militia like this.
En su lugar, descanse.
This collection of housewives, farmers, and students has been drilling for 36 hours straight.
Bien. Nosotros hemos recibido la misión de ocupar.
We have received the mission of defending the coast with the objective of repelling those who disembark from a marine company from the United States. They intend to disembark in our territory during the next 15 hours. Is it clear?
The fear of invasion has been a constant companion in the Cuban mindset, reinforced by repeated weekend exercises like this and 3 fateful days in Cuba's past.
The assault has begun on the dictatorship of Fidel
April
Castro.
16th, 1961, the invasion at the Bay of Pigs. 1,200 CIA-trained Cuban exiles came ashore in an attempt to overthrow Castro's regime. The hows and whys of the invasion plans are sketchy, but what actually happened is crystal clear. The battle raged for days, but the outcome was never in doubt. Castro's forces overwhelmed the invaders. The man greatly responsible for that victory is Jose Fernandez Alvarez, known throughout Cuba as the hero of the Bay of Pigs. For him, the sting of battle was intensified when he realized that Cubans were fighting Cubans.
Of course, it made us feel very uncomfortable to know that your own countrymen offered their services as mercenaries. I had mixed feelings. On one hand, the terrible feeling of having to fight against my own countrymen. On the other hand, I had contempt for those who were trying to fight against a revolution that was doing things for the people. Also, the desire and the conviction of the need that the revolution would be victorious.
The American attempt to topple Castro has had the opposite effect. To this day, the invasion is used as irrefutable proof of American hostility. It is a U.S. transgression the Cubans would not likely forgive, and a victory over the imperialist they will never forget. Since the battle here, Playa Girón has become a popular seaside resort for native Cubans and Eastern Bloc tourists. It's a true workers' paradise. Warm Caribbean waters, the hot Cuban sun, all at a good comrade discount.
En combate. Cuadra uno, firme. Cuadra dos, firme.
It's doubtful that this militia group will ever have to fight the U.S. Marines. The U.S. favors economic isolation over military invasion to overthrow Fidel.
The sacrifice that we are willing to do is to die for socialism, for our country. The slogan of our chief commander is socialism or death, and we are ready for it. Shooter, don't let them disembark. Clear?
Yes.
Obey the order. Organize all the weapons. Every shot should be effective. Clear? Fire! Fire! Fire!
What's important in this exercise isn't marksmanship as much as reinforcing the doctrine that Cubans must be willing and able to defend the revolution against whatever threats appear on the horizon.
How could we not embrace this system, this revolution with all our strength? If it was for the well-being of our children, of the ones that we were seeing dying, these people grow stronger with the difficulties to support Fidel, because here we want Fidel. He is our father. He is the father of our people. The revolution is our mother. And we feel proud, and we step forward as many times as necessary, and we respond to our commander-in-chief every time he asks us for effort and sacrifice.
Before Castro, Havana's harbor was basically just another American seaport. Cuban sugar and cigars went out to the States. American-made products came in. Then Castro came to power and nationalized all American holdings in the name of the Cuban people.
Private American property, $1 billion worth, will be seized in the next few months. Not 1 cent is paid to the owners.
The American reaction was swift. The end of diplomatic relations and the imposition of a crippling embargo. Castro needed someone to fill the void. And at the peak of Cold War antagonism, a willing partner was waiting in the wings.
The red ties are plain to see when a Russian airliner sets down in Cuba with the Soviet Union's hard-nosed trader, Anastas Mikoyan. They agree that Russia will immediately extend full diplomatic recognition to the revolutionary government. At a party, Guevara makes snapshots of the Russian visitor who has gone native. Castro hears that the Reds will supply oil, buy Cuban sugar, send him technicians, supply him with more Soviet planes and arms.
The Russian export to Cuba that America and the world will never forget are the missiles of October of 1962.
Good evening, my fellow citizens. This government, as promised, has maintained the closest surveillance of the Soviet military buildup on the island of Cuba. Within the past week, unmistakable evidence has established the fact that a series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation on that imprisoned island. The purpose of these bases can be none other than to provide a nuclear strike capability against the Western Hemisphere.
Within 24 hours, a confrontation between the searching forces of the United States and a Soviet vessel heading for Cuba must take place.
Kennedy and Soviet Premier Khrushchev tested each other's resolve, and in doing so, brought mankind closer to nuclear devastation than any time before or since. The rest of the world, including Fidel Castro, could only watch and wait.
The world breathes a little easier. Soviet ships would be photographed carrying the missiles out of Cuba.
While nuclear weapons would no longer be shipped, Cuban and Soviet commerce continued apace. Now, all that has changed.
The USSR is going through a very deep crisis, politically, economically, and socially. And of all our support, the USSR is the strongest pillar for our economic and social development.
This recent speech to the Committee for the Defense of the Revolution may have been the most difficult of Fidel Castro's career. It was a clear warning that Cuba was headed for economic crisis.
Needless to say, at this time, we don't know what is going to be the base for our commerce with the USSR next year. Nobody knows at this moment how much they are going to pay us for our sugar, for our products. How much are they going to charge us for their products supplied by the USSR? How much fuel can we hope to receive? That nobody knows at this moment.
In a lot of big cities, Havana is no exception. The night reveals things that can't be seen or heard in the light of day.
I don't want any problems. No. I don't need any type of problem.
One young woman expresses her frustrations with the system, but even a simple statement of personal feelings exposes her to great risk.
I want to tell you something. The majority of my friends have graduated and they could have their careers. Do you understand? The reason why one doesn't follow their career for one reason or another, the main one is the pay. They pay you very badly, and because they pay you so little, unfortunately, one has to quit that job and start something else. Do you understand? Foreigners give you everything. One makes a lot of sacrifices here, and you can't see the result of your work. Me, for example, I studied dance, and aside from studying folk dance, I am a mechanic technician for textile machinery. They pay me very little. I work as a mechanic technician, and the pay is very low. Do you understand? And I graduated. I studied. So when you go into the world after years of studies, you want to buy things, but you can't afford them. Besides, you can't even find them. So you go to the black market. A purse. It costs 100 and something pesos. And if a worker makes 186 pesos, what's left for food, eh? So nobody can buy anything here. You can't even date people from the capitalist area. If he is from the socialist bloc, you can be with him. If he is from the capitalist area, you can't be with him.
And with the tourists?
No way. You are punished. Here there is a law called the law of danger. You are punished with 1 to 4 years in jail. Amongst those laws, there is an article on going out with foreigners. Of course, the other countries don't know about this.
As dangerous as it is, hotel discos are usually filled with young Cuban women dancing with foreign tourists, technicians, and businessmen. Maybe the rewards outweigh the risks. A first-class night on the town, or some cash in one's pocket, or the ultimate prize, the prospect of marriage, and a ticket off the island.
In respect to food, we are very bad, because there is no meat, there is nothing. Everything is so expensive that now we are going backwards. Every day we are going backwards, backwards, backwards. Do you understand?
Rainy days over Havana. Lines are getting longer. Times are getting harder. Sacrifice and patience are now, more than ever, what the revolution requires. For many older Cubans, the revolution is still alive. Today's sacrifices are another chance to carry on the good fight. But 50% of Cuba's population was born after the revolution. As youngsters, they have been told that sacrifice is the price of a better future. Now the future has arrived, and it demands more sacrifice than ever. Will this generation continue to share the revolutionary zeal of their elders? Juan Formel is one of Cuba's most popular performers. He is a man in touch with the mood of Cuba's youth. Yet born before the revolution, he also understands that sacrifice is a way of life.
I am famous here in Cuba and in a lot of places in the world. The extent to which one can be famous here in Cuba, I live a very simple and modest way of life. It's a little bit of a philosophy, not exactly of resignation, but that one in life has a goal. This sets a limit. And that is the way we live.
Tonight, Formel's band is performing in concert. It's a major event on any young Cuban's social calendar, because events like this are few and far between. The outdoor arena has room for only 2,000 young Havanaites. Everyone else will have to be satisfied with listening from the street.
I think that there is not a complete satisfaction among young people for things to do in their spare time. There is a perception that the youth need more entertainment possibilities. This is a problem. There are few places where people can go dancing.
Audience anticipation is high. A chance to dance to one of the hottest bands in Latin America. A chance to cut loose. As long as these kids are dancing, maybe the pressures and demands of life in Cuba can be diffused. Because a generation of dissatisfaction could well be the ultimate threat to Castro's Cuba.
Tal como habíamos prometido, en la noche de hoy, el Salón Rosado, el salón más musical de la América Latina, presenta el fabuloso tren musical de la alegría.
Well, our youth are always searching, but in the way that they don't like to feel pressured by things that they can't understand. I think that the youth knows what is happening in Cuba. They know in the political and social sense what they represent in this moment. For me, I think that the youth is the most important thing that we have in this moment. We have been through a lot and made many sacrifices. Now we are giving the youth the future of this country.
Cuba has taught its children to think, and now they're thinking. And maybe what they're thinking is that they don't like what they're thinking. Will they continue to conform to the revolutionary discipline of their elders, or are they being tempted by the material world that looms 90 miles to the north?
Baile, está cansado ya.
At the far eastern end of the island are 45 square miles of prime Cuban coastline, occupied by Cuba's enemy. The United States Navy has had a base at Guantanamo since the turn of the century, and it has the right to stay as long as it pleases. As per arrangement, the Americans leased the land for $4,085 a year. Since 1959, Fidel Castro has refused to cash the checks. For Castro's Cuba, Guantanamo is a painful thorn in their side, an overt and irritating reminder of America's chokehold.
Our base here in Guantanamo Bay is the oldest United States military base located on foreign soil. We've been here a very, very long time. We've operated as a training station for a very, very long time, and I presume that we've been observed operating as a training station for a long time. We're here for the long haul.
The base is totally isolated from the Cuba that surrounds it. The only thing they exchange is mutual suspicion. And 35 Cuban workers, remnants of a more peaceful time when hundreds of Cubans worked on the base. These men may have the strangest commute in the Americas. Every morning, they enter a Cuban checkpoint to be searched. Then they walk a narrow path through the largest minefield in the Western Hemisphere. Granville Doofus has gone back and forth every working day for 31 years.
Well, on the job I have with the receipt control branch, and that's the section that has to take care of all the incoming shipments.
Thank you. Morning.
I'm a supervisor, and the three people that work with me, they are Americans. The three American ladies.
Granville has a brother, Pat, who has lived on the base since a couple of years after the revolution. Like a lot of Cuban families, geopolitics has separated the two brothers.
I don't talk to him. I will call him on the phone and things like this, but I don't want the other commuters to see me talking with him. They will get the impression that he's bringing news over to me. So I don't want to hamper his position.
Are you happy with the situation?
If I'm happy? Oh, yes, I'm happy like a lark. I'm a U.S. citizen now. I got my citizenship, and over here, they treat me very nice. Not only me, all the Cubans are treated nice over here.
Beyond the minefield, the barbed wire, and the watchtowers, Guantanamo looks much like a town back home, with all the services and comforts of home. But there's no escaping the military character of the place. Guantanamo is a persistent symbol of U.S. hostility to the Cuban Revolution and the U.S. determination to give no ground without sweeping changes.
If I could conceptualize a wonderful thing to happen while I'm here, it would not be to fire a weapon across that fence, but it would be to see the gate coming open and to see what would go with that. Because, of course, it wouldn't come open with Castro, the communist, the international communist as we know him today. It would have to be a different sort of leader that would be able to do that.
Well, this is the great hope of the imperialists. Now the biggest hope is that our situation becomes so difficult as a result of the situation in Europe and the USSR that we won't be able to hold out. This is their hope. We are planning to face an exceptional period for a time of peace. An exceptional and difficult period. There are several actions that we are taking. In fact, I already gave instructions not to start any new social programs. We wanted to build new schools to replace the old ones in the capital. We had a program to build new polyclinics. We had a program for daycare. At this moment, we stopped all these programs. Practically, we are not going to be able to have new household appliances available. This is too bad, but it's better than not having food available, medical supplies available. But not a single citizen will remain unprotected. Not a single citizen will be abandoned. That's a characteristic of our socialism, of our system. What are we going to do? Give up the revolution? Give up socialism? Give up independence? What we are going to do is resist and fight. I am saying resist, fight, and win, of course.
Resist, struggle, and win. A new slogan for a new and difficult time. On the streets, the future is closing in. Cuba is struggling with the inevitability of change itself. And change will come to Cuba. Perhaps change will be encouraged by their neighbor to the north, who, by emphasizing mutual interests rather than mutual suspicions, will lessen the hardships of life in Cuba. Perhaps change will come from the Comandante. Fidel Castro may adapt by moving toward a more open political and economic system. If he doesn't, and the country's economy keeps plummeting, he could eventually face an internal explosion, the fate of his recently departed Eastern Bloc comrades. Ultimately, the burden of change falls to the Cuban people. People whose greatest challenge may be to fulfill their own vision of a Cuba just, proud, and for the first time in its history, truly independent.
Looking across the harbor at Havana this gray evening, you think about the reality of the past 30 years of Cuban-American relations. The reality that the two countries are only 90 miles apart. The reality that there are more Cubans in Miami than most cities in Cuba. The reality that all human beings want much the same things. The reality that the two countries are bound together whether they like it or not. Time to get used to that reality, perhaps. I'm James Earl Jones with Portrait of Castro's Cuba. Thank you for watching.